Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We must acknowledge the Indigenous heritage of our community. Oakville resides on the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas, of the Credit First Nation, and the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Huron-Wendat people. Further, we acknowledge that the town of Oakville is covered by Treaty 14, Head of the Lake Purchase, 1806, and Treaty 22, 1820. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing a lady who's running for mayor. I am Mr. Julia Hanna. I'm far too prejudiced, I shouldn't use the word prejudice, but I'm far too one-sided and slanted in my view of this lady. She is awesome. She is my wife. Yes, I've had many a fight with her, many a discussion, but this town would be served by no better person. And it is without further ado, I would introduce to you candidate for mayor of the town of Oakville and Oakville's next mayor, Julia Hanna.
I think he could feel me breathing down his neck. Well, looking across at all of you, it makes my heart sing, because we are all here tonight because we love Oakville. It has been a really difficult few days. We have lost our queen, who for 70 years served us tirelessly with grace. We have also lost a police officer in the line of duty. It reminds us each and every day, when an officer puts on a uniform, they risk their lives for our safety. And our thoughts and prayers are with the family of Constable Andrew Hong. Well, I need to begin by thanking all of you for being here tonight. And you give me your time, and that inspires me to work hard. Now, I was born and raised in the city of Toronto. 40 years ago, someone invited me for dinner in Oakville. I asked if I should bring my passport because it felt so far away. I only knew Oakville because I worked for Chum AM as a chum girl. And I drove around the GTA giving prizes. A lot of my family was very happy when I had that job. And I remember thinking to myself, driving along that lakeshore at that time, there's something pretty special about this community. Now, who would have thought after that dinner, at 26 years of age, with $985 in the bank, that I was going to buy my first restaurant. When you're 26 years old, not having money does not stop you. And I knew at the time that Oakville, that night that I sat here, Oakville has what I call the tira factor. And in Italian, tira means to pull you in. And once Oakville pulls you in, you never want to leave. I opened Cafe Galleria, and I have to tell you, 40 years ago, I see some familiar faces from back then. And I had Cafe Galleria for 10 years, then Paradiso for 7 years, then Restaurante Giulia for close to 15 years. And now in North Oakville, Ritorno is celebrating this year its 15th year. Yeah. Now, I was embraced and I was supported by this community. And when you feel like you belong, you are motivated and you are determined to give back. I am Julia Hanna, and I am running for mayor of Oakville. Oh, my niece, Michaela, Maya, Michaela! Hey, baby, Maya! Sorry, couldn't resist. Nothing nothing could have prepared us for the last 2 years. It sucked. We were forced to learn a lot about ourselves, good and bad. We were forced to stop and slow down. And all the issues that were bubbling below the surface in our personal lives, in our community, exploded. And if those last 2 years weren't challenging enough, we now have rising interest rates, sky-high inflation, and a growing housing crisis. That is the trifecta for sleepless nights. This election is our opportunity to bring change to our Oakville. An Oakville that will be looked at as the community that came back better and stronger. Yes, thank you. We need to believe that. Listen, we have all been places. We have all seen things. But how many places can boast the unique, distinct communities that we call our own? Bronte Harbor, downtown Oakville, Kerr Street, Glen Abbey. People come from all over to come and visit us here, and it belongs to us. How many of us during the tough 2 years walked those trails? What did that do for our mental health? How many of us down by the lake found solace? It's in our backyard, our Oakville. So why? Why does the recent town survey say that 6 out of 10 people who live in this town would not recommend it to their friends and family to live? Why have we gone from number 1 in 2018 in Forbes magazine survey to number 70 in the McLean survey of communities to live in Canada? There is a storm brewing, and we can see it's coming. Now is the time for change. When I speak to you, when I speak to people in our community, they tell us that our seniors who gave and built this community are being forced to live because they can't afford to live here. Our young people, my son's friends, can't rent because Oakville has the second highest rent in all of Canada next to Vancouver. 9.4 of our residents live with poverty. Many of our new residents do not feel welcome and do not feel heard. Burlington has taken the lead in electric charging stations. They have 114. We have 76. The growing frustration of congestion, we live with it, and we don't need to live with it like this. Development and growth in our community is posing challenges that we have never seen in Oakville's history. Housing has simply become unaffordable. Look, I do not have the silver bullet to solve the housing crisis. Nobody does. What I do have is the energy and willingness to embrace innovative and best-in-class solutions. Thank you. An irresponsible promise was made 16 years ago to say no to growth. Growth has been mandated by the provincial government in 2006. If we had begun building sustainable growth in 2006, the town would not have to make up for lost time by pouring concrete until it touches the sky. How we grow from this moment on is the most important challenge that the future of Oakville is facing. We have control of what that growth looks like. Please do not let anybody tell you differently. I want to build communities, not sprawl. I want to build an Oakville for the future that we can all be proud of. One where our growth and development fits and enhances our communities. Now is the time for vision and strong leadership. Growing up, thank you. Growing up in an Italian family, I knew I was in trouble when my parents went, "Ah, basta." That means enough. And tonight I am saying, "Ah, basta," enough. Enough finger pointing and blaming. Own it. Enough of intimidation and scare tactics. Enough of not listening. Enough of delays and missed opportunities. I am a very different kind of leader. First of all, you'll always eat better with me. That's okay. That is one promise I will make as a politician, and you can hold me to it for as long as I live. I will engage. I will build consensus. I will fight for you. I am Julia Hanna, and I humbly ask you to join me in building the Oakville of the future. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, yeah. Thank you, thank you. Well, I don't know, do we want to take questions, or we good? Or are we just going to party now? Okay, we're going to party?
No, we'll take a few questions.
You want to take a few questions?
Yeah, we'll take 5 questions.
5 questions. Who's going to be brave enough? Come on now. And no family.
Got a question.
Oh, okay, 5 questions. Anybody have a question for us? Yes. Yes, love. Yes. Oh my gosh, she's a reporter. That's never good.
Can you bring it to the microphone?
Yes. Thank you.
The question is going to be in keeping with what you're promising, so don't worry. My question is, so first of all, my name is Vandana Gadia. I'm from the Oakville Times. You talked about sustainable growth.
Yes.
You talked about responsible growth.
Yes.
You talked about stopping sprawls.
Yes.
And in keeping with that, what would be your policy on elimination of plastics in Oakville,
Oh my
plastic
gosh.
usage?
In regards to our environment, we all know the challenge of plastic. And our environmental policy, as you heard, or charging stations, we are lagging behind. And we are lagging behind in an updated environmental policy. So, we lived for a lot of years without plastic. We're going to try to live without it again. Okay? So, any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? Yes? Oh, see, I don't have heels on now. I can do this. Yay! Okay. You know what's coming. I'm ready. This is my neighbor.
Okay, the current
I
plans.
know where you live.
The current plans in Oakville appear to be geared toward institutionalized senior independent living, such as Seasons, Riviera, Amica, Chartwell, and all you have to do is drive around, particularly North Oakville, to see one building after another. Versus the active senior living communities, such as the villages of Brantwell and Burlington, or Woodside Mews in Oakville. Can you please provide us with the research that supports the planning of such developments in Oakville? Our quantitative research shows that the majority of seniors would not want to live in institutionalized community settings and would prefer the independence of being in their own homes rather than being with support services for day-to-day living. So what kinds of plans do you think we could have for addressing this important need for seniors?
Well, Susan, because I'm of a certain age, this is a topic that's near and dear to me. My sons all know that my will is structured so that if they put me in a home, they're not getting a hell of a lot. So I just want to say that it is, we are, as a municipality, we are limited, but we are not powerless. And we have incredible community centers that need to be used and embraced in ways for seniors that have not been up until now. I agree with you. I think we have to look at other housing options too. That's part of looking at different housing, Susan, where they have shared housing. They call them, it's a horrible word, but they call them granny flats. There's a really nice way of saying it. It's just escaping me right now. But we can look at different ways of housing and accommodating seniors so they can live with a caregiver. We have to open our minds, because what did COVID show us? COVID showed us that behind those closed doors and how we treated our seniors is not how we want them to remember us. And that's not how I want to live either. So what I will promise you, and it's not just because of my age, I will promise you that seniors are never going to be forgotten, and seniors will always be remembered. And if they don't, I'll devise a system that I have with my sons. There you go. Yes.
Is this question 4 or 5? 3. Excellent. Gilbert Jubenville, candidate, Ward 4, Councillor Regional in town. Julia, if COVID miraculously comes back, will you support the lockdowns and the mandates? Or will you just follow the provincial guidelines?
Well, thank you for handing me the ball. I always thought the number 3 was supposed to be a lucky number. Obviously not. That is just a discussion on a municipal level that poses us challenges. What I do know is that I don't know what the medical community knows. And I need to trust the medical community. I also am keenly aware of what the mandates did to our community. And I know that the recovery is still in process. And I think that there's still 60% of small businesses that are struggling. So mandates we can't take lightly. Mandates we do embrace with the knowledge that they will impact the lives of people. But no one, I'm going to go back to what I said. No one could have prepared us for the last 2 years. Nobody. And I am hoping that what we've learned, I am hoping, number 1, that's never going to happen again. Most importantly, number 2, I am hoping that everything we learned from our lessons in the last 2 years, we will not repeat the mistakes we made when we didn't have the knowledge of what we were dealing with. We now do. So, question number 4. Thank you.
I hope this is a lucky one for you. J.D. Meany, Councillor in Waiting for Ward 1, Regional. There's a problem in the Bronte area, predatory towing. When we're elected, promise me we're going to work together to fight that. Everything in our power.
I've got news for you, and thank you. That's a very good question, and I just breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you, JD, on that. Our platform is going to be released tomorrow morning, and you're going to see that's a huge part of it. Here's predatory parking. Bronte, we work so hard. Our merchants, our restaurants, we work so hard to drive people there. And I don't think there's much more that can really just change an experience than having your car towed away. I know that the Legion, I would like to speak to our Legion. I think we can support our Legion, and they can help us with parking. And I have a feeling that if we approach them, we can have a partnership. And this is what this is all about, is partnerships, working together, and acknowledging that you don't have the strength on your own, and acknowledging that you need the help of others. And when you have a relationship where you benefit and the town benefits, it's a win-win all across the board. I agree. Predatory parking, towing is just not acceptable. And I'm Italian, and I've been told, and I say that with conviction. Yes.
I'm Singita, and I'm your neighbor as well. I live on 4th line, so I don't think we've ever met. But the question that I have is, there is not a lot of transparency and accountability at all levels of the government with regards to financing. So what are you going to do, and what tools are you going to use to share the accountability issues of the commitments that you're making, and what, other than just, okay, not voting for you again, what other repercussions are going to be in place?
Well, that's a great question. That is a really good question, and I'm glad that you asked it. First of all, I want everybody to know that I am keenly aware of one thing. It's not my money we're spending, it's your money. And you have every right to know where that money goes. And you will have an administration that will have an open door policy and better communication. In fact, please, I implore all of you to look at our platform, because you will see these are the issues that we are addressing. Because when I look now in the history of what I've had to learn over the last number of years, when I look at $15 million being spent on a consultancy for a cultural hub in downtown Oakville that never came to fruition, I think to myself, where would that $15 million have gone? And how could that have helped the community? Do not spend money and do not invest money unless you know it's going to benefit the town. Right? Yes, one last, yes.
Save the best for last, yes. Michael Reed, Town Council candidate, Ward 5, and I have a question regarding the town finances. And it's been brought to my attention that our audits the last decade or so, maybe longer, have not been complete. So in the first 100 days of your administration, how would you plan on dealing with the audit situation?
Wow, guys, you could have taken it a little easier on me. Holy, I fed you, I got you drinks, I invited you in. Holy moly. Okay, it is a good question. Why is it a good question? Because we're talking about town finances. And again, I'm going to reiterate to you, and I hope that as you get to know me, that you're going to know how sincere I am in this. But when I open any of my businesses, I need to know where the money is. So when I go into the town, I'm going to find out where we are. And I'm going to know where we spent money. And I'm going to know how we spent money at times, unnecessarily. But I promise you, before I spend money, I'm going to know what we have and what we have spent. Okay? That I promise. Yes.
Julia, I have a couple of questions, actually, because you did feed me.
Sir, just walk out this way. Walk out. Thanks.
The first question I have is, do you believe in term limits? Because of the fact that we have had the same mayor and various councilors for more time than I can remember, and I have been, as you well know, Oakvillian for over 50 years. So as a consequence, that's the first thing. And because I moved from southeast Oakville, where you were my neighbor, and you flew to the north, we moved downtown. And it's a huge problem for the merchants, because it is, and you'll forgive my French, the bloody crisis when it comes to parking. Now, you addressed it. Mr. Maney addressed it in Bronte, but the merchants can't be successful if they can't get their clients to come to them to spend their hard-earned dollars. So
there are two questions. So, the time bomb about term limits. Well, Yes. Next time, guys, can we up the game on the food? Please. Holy. All right. When it comes to term limits, I've owned the longest time I've owned any of my restaurants is 15 years. So how do I feel about term limits? There are exceptions to the rule. But overall, I do believe in term limits because this job takes so much energy. It dominates your life. You have to be going 24/7. And if you get tired in this job, you are not going to do a good job. And that's why I believe term limits is something we need to consider. Downtown Oakville, I had all my restaurants there for 35 years, so it's a bit of a sweet spot for me. In 2011, we purchased the post office, and we were told that we had money in the reserves to be able to alleviate some of the pressure of parking by placing parking there. It's now 2022, it hasn't happened. My concern is not, it's about the customers, of course, always, but I worry about the businesses and the retailers trying to attract employees when it's a 2 to 3 year wait list for a parking permit.
Shame.
Right? No, that is not a good thing. So yes, it will be addressed.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, and Kinsey. Oh, this is Kinsey, by the way.
Thank you, Julia. Folks, let's give a good round of applause for Julia. If anyone has any additional questions, feel free. She's sticking around all night. We do.
Always the last to know.
We have a sign-up sheet, so if you haven't signed up yet, we'd appreciate collecting your information. We do have signs we're giving away. Makes it a lot easier for us. If you guys want to sign, please come see our sign booth. And we are accepting donations if you'd so graciously give them. Thank you so much.
And also, I want to acknowledge all the young people in this room because I am so proud to see all of you out tonight. And that is what makes me believe that this fight is worth it because it is your future that we're playing with. And you being here inspires me. So thank you to everyone that isn't as old as me for being here tonight. Thank you.
Furthermore, if you guys want to take a look at the platform, it will be available on her website tomorrow. So you're more than welcome to take a look at it. It references things she's spoken about. And yeah, like I said, if you guys want to volunteer, we're running a hell of a campaign, and we'll be excited to have you out there at the doors and whatnot. Thank you.